Princess Wren whimpered in her dark cell, hope extinguished, resigned to execution by the traitor Crax, until unbeatable human soldier Derek Howard was tasked with her rescue. Derek scowled as the Galactic Council mission briefing ended. The hardened veteran had faced impossible odds before, but this time the fate of an empire and the galaxy hung in the balance. Princess Wren, heir to the reptilian Gorn Empire, was kidnapped by the notorious Gorn warlord Crax. This rogue faction leader sought to overthrow Wren's father, Emperor Zog, and seize power, even if it meant executing the princess and hurling the galaxy into chaos. But Crax made one fatal mistake. He underestimated humanity's resolve. The Council chose Derek for this mission because he gets shit done against ridiculous odds. Derek and his battle-tested squad were the princess's only hope. Outfitted with cutting-edge stealth tech and advanced weapons, it was up to them to infiltrate the warlord's stronghold on planet Gornax. They had just 3 days to rescue Wren before Crax's deadline expired. 3 days to save the princess, prevent a bloody Gorn civil war, and keep the galactic peace. Derek cracked his knuckles, slung his pulse rifle over his shoulder, and narrowed his eyes. The warlord's days were fucking numbered. Derek and his team disembarked their cloaked dropship on the rocky outskirts of Crax's stronghold. The human squad, Derek, demolitions expert Jack Boomer Reeves, and tech specialist Mark Glitch Hoffman, surveyed the massive fortress carved into a mountainside. Dozens of the traitor's soldiers patrolled the perimeter, backed up by automated security turrets. Glitch fiddled with his wrist computer. "I'm in their network, boss. Disabling the perimeter sensors now." The turret slumped over. Derek nodded approvingly. "Move out!" Using the rocky terrain for cover, the team crept up to a side entrance. Derek swiped the keycard they'd lifted off a guard, and the heavy blast door slid open with a hiss. Inside, they immediately came under fire from waiting Gorn soldiers. "So much for stealth!" Boomer shouted over the pulse rifle shots. He fired back, taking down 2 reptilians. Derek and Glitch joined in, their aim true. In moments, the area was clear. They proceeded deeper into the stronghold, navigating twisting corridors. Derek took point, dropping hostiles with precise headshots as Boomer covered the rear. Glitch accessed a terminal and pulled up a hologram of the fortress. Got a location on the princess. Crax has her in a detention block, 10 levels down. "Fuck, of course he does," Derek muttered. "Boomer, I need a diversion. Rig the power station on level 3 to blow. Meet us at the exfil point in 30. "With pleasure," Boomer grinned, heading off. Minutes later, a rumbling explosion shook the fortress. Emergency lights flashed red. "That's our cue. Double time it." Derek and Glitch sprinted for the cell blocks, cutting down guards as alarms blared. They stacked up outside the heavy cell door. Glitch hacked the lock and it clicked open. Derek burst in, rifle ready, but froze. Crax stood with his clawed hand around Princess Wren's throat and a disruptor pistol to her head. The Gorn warlord sneered. "Drop the gun, human, or your precious princess dies." Derek hesitated. Crax pressed the gun barrel harder against Wren's skull. "I won't ask twice." Slowly, Derek lowered his rifle to the floor, locking eyes with Glitch. In a flash, Derek rolled left as Glitch fired. His shot struck Crax's hand, sending the disruptor skittering across the cell. The warlord roared in pain and fury. Derek charged forward, slamming into Crax. The two tumbled to the ground, exchanging devastating blows. Crax lashed out with his razor-sharp talons. Derek barely dodged, feeling them whistle past his face. He countered with a vicious uppercut to Crax's jaw. As they grappled, Glitch hurried to Wren's side and cut her restraints. She grabbed a fallen guard's pistol and took aim at Crax. The warlord had Derek pinned, hands around his throat. Derek's vision swam. Suddenly, a pulse shot struck Crax in the shoulder. He howled and recoiled. Derek capitalized on the moment, head-butting Crax and shoving him off. Breathing hard, Derek stared down at the beaten warlord. "Nap time, asshole." He knocked Crax out cold with one final punch. Glitch zip-tied the warlord's wrists and ankles. Princess Wren and Derek exchanged a quick nod of mutual respect and gratitude. I hate to cut the reunion short, Glitch said, but we've got a pissed-off stronghold of Gorn between us and the exit. Derek, Ren, and the team raced through the stronghold's crumbling corridors, dodging falling debris and exchanging fire with Krax's loyal soldiers. As they rounded a corner, they came face to face with a towering Gorn warrior blocking their path. It was Thrax, Krax's second-in-command, a mountain of scales and muscle. "You're not going anywhere with the princess," Thrax growled, leveling his plasma rifle at the group. "Surrender now and I might let you live." "Not a chance, big guy," Derek retorted, opening fire. The team unleashed a hail of pulse rounds, but Thrax's advanced armor absorbed the shots. The massive Gorn returned fire, his weapons spitting searing bolts of energy. Boomer dove for cover, but a plasma bolt caught him in the chest. He crumpled to the ground, a smoking hole in his armor. "Boomer!" Glitch shouted, rushing to his fallen comrade's side. Derek gritted his teeth, fury boiling in his veins. He charged forward, closing the distance between himself and Thrax. The Gorn warrior swung his rifle like a club, but Derek ducked under the blow and rammed his shoulder into Thrax's midsection. The two warriors grappled, trading crushing blows. Glitch looked up from Boomer's unconscious form, his face grim. "He's alive, but barely. I need to stabilize him." "Do it," Derek grunted, dodging a vicious swipe from Thrax's claws. "We'll hold him off." Ren joined the fray, her borrowed pistol barking. Thrax roared as a shot grazed his scaly hide. He backhanded Derek, sending the human soldier flying. Derek slammed into the wall, the breath driven from his lungs. Thrax advanced on Ren, his eyes burning with malice. She fired again, but the Gorn shrugged off the hits. He lashed out, his claws tearing the weapon from her grip. Ren cried out in pain, clutching her injured hand. Derek struggled to his feet, his vision swimming. He saw Thrax looming over Ren and charged, ignoring the agony in his battered body. He leaped onto the Gorn's back, wrapping his arm around Thrax's thick neck. Thrax thrashed, trying to dislodge his attacker. Derek held on, squeezing with all his strength. The Gorn's movements grew sluggish, his air supply cut off. With a final, desperate twist, Derek wrenched Thrax's head to the side. The sickening crack of snapping bone echoed through the corridor. Derek released his grip, and Thrax's lifeless body slumped to the floor. Breathing heavily, Derek turned to Ren. "You all right?" She nodded, cradling her injured hand. "I'll live, we need to move." Glitch helped Boomer to his feet, the demolitions expert leaning heavily on his teammate. "He's stable for now, but we need to get him medical attention ASAP. "Krax's hangar is just ahead," Ren said, pointing down the corridor. "If we can reach his personal shuttle, we might have a chance." Derek retrieved his rifle and took point. "Then that's our target. Glitch, you and Boomer follow behind. Ren and I will clear the way." The group pushed forward, fighting through the last pockets of resistance. They burst into the hangar, pulse rifles blazing. Krax's guards fell before their onslaught, and the team raced aboard the sleek, black shuttle. Derek slid into the pilot's seat, his fingers flying over the controls. The engines roared to life and the shuttle lifted off, blasting out of the hangar. They soared over the battle-scarred landscape, leaving the crumbling stronghold behind. But their escape was short-lived. An alarm blared and Derek's eyes widened as a heavily armed fighter craft appeared on their tail. Thrax's face filled the comm screen, twisted with rage. "You think you can escape me that easily?" the Gorn snarled. "I'll blast you out of the sky." Laser fire raked the shuttle's shields, making the craft shudder. Derek wrenched the controls, sending them into a dizzying spiral. Ren stumbled into the co-pilot's seat, strapping herself in. "He's too fast," Derek growled, the shuttle bucking as another volley slammed into their weakening shields. "We can't outrun him." Ren's eyes fell on the weapons console. "Then we fight back." She grabbed the controls and the shuttle's guns roared to life. Searing bolts of energy streaked towards Thrax's fighter, but the Gorn pilot evaded them with mocking ease. His return fire hammered their shields, warning lights flashing red. Derek glanced at Ren, a desperate plan forming in his mind. "I've got an idea, but you're not going to like it." "Do it," she said, her jaw set. Derek wrenched the shuttle into a steep climb, Thrax's fighter hot on their heels. The Gorn's laser fire stitched the sky around them, barely missing the shuttle's engines. Derek gripped the controls, his knuckles white. "Hold on," he shouted, and slammed the shuttle into a gut-wrenching dive. Thrax's fighter followed, closing the distance. Laser blasts rocked the shuttle, alarms screaming. At the last second, Derek yanked back on the controls. The shuttle's nose pulled up and they hurtled straight towards Thrax's oncoming fighter. The Gorn's eyes widened in shock, realizing too late what was happening. The two craft collided head-on, the impact throwing Derek and Ren against their restraints. The shuttle's nose crumpled, and Thrax's fighter exploded in a blinding fireball. Shrapnel tore through the shuttle's hull, and the craft began to spiral out of control. "We need to eject!" Derek yelled over the blaring alarms. He slammed his fist on the emergency escape pod release. The shuttle's cockpit blew apart, and their seats rocketed away from the doomed craft. Moments later, the shuttle and Thrax's fighter slammed into the jungle below, erupting in a massive explosion. Derek and Ren's escape pods deployed parachutes, carrying them away from the fiery wreckage. They hit the ground hard, the impact knocking the wind from their lungs. Derek kicked open his pod's hatch and stumbled out, his head ringing. He found Ren nearby, already freeing herself from her own pod. "You all right?" he asked, helping her to her feet. "I'm fine," she replied, wincing as she put weight on her injured leg. "But we're not out of this yet." Derek surveyed the dense jungle around them, the smoke from the crash site rising in the distance. "We need to find shelter and try to contact the council for extraction." Ren nodded, then hesitated. "Derek, there's something you need to know, the real reason Krax kidnapped me." He turned to her, his brow furrowed. "What is it?" "Krax discovered the location of an ancient Gorn artifact, hidden somewhere in our Empire's territory. It's said to grant immense power to whoever wields it. He planned to use me as leverage against my father to force him to hand over the artifact." Derek's eyes widened. If Krax gets his hands on that kind of power, he could conquer the entire galaxy, Ren finished grimly. "We can't let that happen." Derek's mind raced, the weight of their new mission settling on his shoulders. "Then we need to find that artifact before Krax's forces do. The fate of the galaxy depends on it." Together they set off into the jungle, battered but determined. The fight was far from over and the stakes had never been higher. But Derek knew one thing for certain. He would do whatever it took to stop Krax and save the galaxy, no matter the cost. Derek and Ren pushed through the dense jungle, the humid air thick with the chirps and calls of alien creatures. Vines snagged at their clothes as they hacked a path with machetes, ever wary of the dangers lurking in the shadows. A rustling in the underbrush made them freeze. Derek signaled for Ren to take cover behind a gnarled tree trunk. Pulse rifle at the ready, Derek scanned the foliage. Sweat trickled down his brow. Suddenly a massive insectoid creature burst from the leaves, its serrated mandibles snapping. Derek squeezed the trigger, sending a burst of plasma into the creature's head. It thrashed and screeched before collapsing in a smoking heap. "Stay sharp," Derek warned. "There's bound to be more." They pressed on, fighting through the relentless onslaught of hostile fauna. Carnivorous plants lashed out with barbed tendrils. Venomous reptiles lunged from camouflaged burrows. Each encounter drained their energy and resources, but they couldn't afford to slow down. Krax's forces were hot on their trail. As they neared the artifact's location, a shout rang out. Pulse fire zipped past Derek's head. He dove for cover, dragging Ren down with him. A dozen of Krax's elite soldiers emerged from the trees, led by a battered but enraged Thrax. "Did you really think you could escape me?" Thrax snarled, his wounds oozing. "I'll mount your heads on my trophy wall." Derek and Ren returned fire, plasma bolts scorching bark and foliage, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. A searing pain tore through Derek's shoulder as a shot found its mark. He grunted, his rifle falling from nerveless fingers. Ren saw Derek go down. Gritting her teeth, she snatched up his weapon and charged forward, loosing a battle cry. She wove between the trees, pulse fire stitching the air around her. With a flying leap, she tackled Thrax, sending them both tumbling to the ground. They grappled in the dirt, exchanging savage blows. Thrax's claws raked Ren's face, drawing blood. She headbutted him, stunning the Gorn warrior. Rolling to her feet, Ren scooped up a fallen blaster and fired point-blank into Thrax's chest. The Gorn convulsed and lay still. Ren staggered, her injuries taking their toll, but there was no time to rest. She raced to Derek's side, helping him to his feet. Together they limped towards the artifact's hidden chamber. The ancient structure loomed before them, pulsing with an eerie light. They stumbled inside, the air humming with energy. At the center of the chamber stood a glowing, crystalline device, intricate patterns etched into its surface. As they approached, a cold laugh echoed from the shadows. Crack stepped into view, his armor scorched and battered. "You fools," he sneered. "You have no idea what you've stumbled upon." Crack circled the artifact, his eyes gleaming with mad ambition. "This is no mere trinket. It is the key to an ancient weapon of unimaginable power. With it, I will bring the galaxy to its knees." Derek launched himself at Crax with a roar. They traded crushing blows, each impact resonating through the chamber. Ren rushed to the artifact, her fingers flying over the alien controls. "It's a doomsday device," she gasped, "capable of destroying entire star systems." Derek and Crax battled furiously, their armor cracking under the relentless assault. Crax's claws found weak points, drawing blood, but Derek fought on, fueled by desperation and rage. Ren pored over the artifact's systems, searching for a way to disable the weapon. Her heart sank as the truth became clear. There was only one option. "Derek," she cried, "the only way to stop it is to overload the artifact itself, but the explosion—" Derek met her gaze, understanding in his eyes. He nodded grimly, then redoubled his efforts against Crax. The warlord hammered Derek with blow after punishing blow, driving him to his knees. With a last anguished look at Derek, Ren activated the overload sequence. The artifact began to pulse erratically, building toward a critical mass. Crax's eyes widened in horror as he realized what was happening. A blinding flash consumed the chamber. The explosion tore through the ancient structure, vaporizing Crax and the artifact in an instant. The shockwave flung Derek across the room, slamming him into the far wall. Ears ringing, vision blurred, Derek crawled through the debris. He found Ren lying broken amidst the rubble, her life fading. He gathered her in his arms, tears streaming down his battered face. "I'm sorry," Ren whispered, her breath rattling. "It was the only way." "You saved us all," Derek choked out. "Your sacrifice won't be forgotten, I swear it." As Ren breathed her last, Derek held her close, his heart shattered. The weight of her loss, of the mission, pressed down on him like a physical force. In the aftermath, Derek stood before the Galactic Council, his uniform still stained with blood and dirt. He recounted the harrowing tale, his voice hollow with grief. The council members listened in somber silence. Princess Ren's bravery and sacrifice stopped a madman from unleashing untold destruction upon the galaxy, Derek said. She gave her life so that others might live. We must honor that sacrifice by striving for peace and understanding between all species. The council nodded, moved by his words. They appointed Derek as a special ambassador, tasking him with rebuilding the fragile relationship between the Gorn Empire and the rest of the galactic community. As Derek accepted his new role, he felt the weight of Ren's memory upon his shoulders. He would carry her legacy forward, fighting for the ideals she believed in. He would work tirelessly to bridge the divides between species, to foster cooperation and harmony in a galaxy torn by strife. For in the end, that was the only way to truly honor Ren's sacrifice, to build a future worth fighting for, a future where the galaxy might know true and lasting peace. Weeks passed, as Derek threw himself into his new role as ambassador, working tirelessly to bridge the gap between the Gorn Empire and the rest of the galactic community. He met with leaders from various species, negotiating trade agreements and fostering a spirit of cooperation. But even as he made progress, a nagging sense of unease gnawed at him. It started with small discrepancies, missing funds, redacted documents, whispered conversations that abruptly halted when he entered the room. Derek's instincts, honed by years of military service, told him something was amiss within the Galactic Council itself. He began to dig deeper, following a trail of cryptic clues and buried secrets. Late one night, hunched over a secure terminal in his private quarters, Derek discovered the truth that sent his world spinning off its axis. A faction of corrupt council members, led by the insectoid Councillor Zaxxon, had been in league with Cracks all along. Zaxxon's plan was as insidious as it was ambitious. By manipulating Cracks into destabilizing the Gorn Empire, Zaxxon aimed to seize control of the ancient weapon and use its power to establish Crixian dominance over the entire galaxy. The revelation hit Derek like a pulse blast to the gut. He barely had time to process the betrayal when his door hissed open and a trio of heavily armed Crixian guards stormed in. Derek reacted on instinct, lunging for his weapon. Pulse fire erupted in the confined space as he dove for cover behind his desk. Derek knew he was outmatched and outnumbered. He needed to escape, to find allies and expose Zaxxon's treachery before it was too late. He fired off a volley of shots, forcing the Crixians to take cover, then made a desperate break for the window. Glass shattered as Derek leaped through, plummeting towards the streets below. He activated his grav chute at the last second, the sudden deceleration wrenching at his shoulders as he landed hard on the pavement. Ignoring the pain, he ran, disappearing into the neon-lit alleyways of the metropolis. In the days that followed, Derek reached out to old contacts and forged new alliances, gathering a ragtag group of supporters from across the galactic factions. Bounty hunters, mercenaries, disgruntled politicians, anyone who had a stake in seeing Zaxxon's plans thwarted. But even as he rallied his forces, Derek's thoughts kept turning to Wren. The memory of her sacrifice, of holding her broken body in his arms, haunted him. He had to believe she was alive out there somewhere. And then a breakthrough. One of Derek's contacts, a Gorn intelligence operative, brought him a grainy surveillance image. Though the figure was bruised and battered, there was no mistaking Wren's fierce gaze. She was being held in a top-secret Crixian stronghold, deep in the heart of Zaxxon's territory. Derek knew what he had to do. He gathered his team and began to plan a daring rescue mission. They would infiltrate the stronghold, free Wren, and gather the evidence needed to expose Zaxxon's betrayal. As they made their approach, Derek's heart hammered against his ribs. He checked his weapons for the 100th time, the weight of his pulse rifle familiar and reassuring in his hands. Beside him, his old teammate Glitch offered a tight nod of support. They breached the stronghold's perimeter under cover of darkness, neutralizing the outer guards with ruthless efficiency. Derek led the way, his eyes scanning for any sign of Wren. They fought their way deeper into the complex, alarms blaring and pulse fire filling the air. And then there she was, Wren, battered but unbroken, locked in a transparent cell at the heart of the stronghold. Derek's breath caught in his throat as their eyes met through the barrier. He slammed his fist against the release button, and the cell door slid open with a hiss. They fell into each other's arms, holding tight as the chaos of battle raged around them. "I thought I'd lost you," Derek whispered, his voice raw. Wren pulled back, her eyes blazing with determination. "You can't get rid of me that easily." Together they fought their way out of the stronghold, Wren leaning heavily on Derek as they made their escape. In the stronghold's control room, they found the evidence they needed. Data files, communication logs, everything that proved Zaxxon's treachery beyond a shadow of a doubt. But their victory was short-lived. As they emerged from the stronghold, they found themselves surrounded by Zaxxon's forces. The corrupt counselor himself stood at the head of his army, a cruel smile twisting his insectoid features. "Did you really think you could stop me?" Zaxxon sneered. "I have the might of the Crixian Empire behind me. You are nothing but a thorn in my side, a thorn I will now pluck out." Derek stepped forward, shielding Wren behind him. "You're wrong, Zaxxon. We have something you'll never understand, the strength of unity, of trust. The galaxy won't stand for your tyranny." As if on cue, a massive fleet of ships dropped out of hyperspace above them. Gorn warships, human cruisers, vessels from a dozen different species, all united against Zaxxon's threat. At their head was the remnants of Derek's old team, Boomer and a host of allies they'd gathered. The space above the stronghold erupted into a fierce battle, the fate of the galaxy hanging in the balance. Derek and Wren joined the fray, leading a desperate charge against Zaxxon's ground forces. They fought side by side, their movements perfectly synchronized, a deadly dance of skill and determination. The battle was brutal, losses heavy on both sides. But in the end, Derek and his allies emerged victorious. Zaxxon's flagship, a monstrous Crixian dreadnought, exploded in a brilliant flash as the corrupt councillor's final desperate gambit failed. In the aftermath, as the smoke cleared and the wounded were tended to, Derek stood before the remaining council members, Wren at his side. He presented the evidence of Zaxxon's betrayal, watching as shock and anger played across their faces. The council was forced to confront the rot within their own ranks, the failings that had allowed Zaxxon's scheme to flourish. They vowed to do better, to be better, to rebuild the trust that had been so badly broken. And as for Derek and Wren, they stood at a crossroads, the weight of duty and responsibility hanging heavy on their shoulders. They had fought so hard, sacrificed so much to bring peace to the galaxy. But now, as leaders of their respective peoples, they knew their paths must diverge. They stood together one last time, hands clasped, foreheads touching. "I love you," Derek whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "I always will." Wren smiled through her tears. "And I love you. But we both know what we have to do. Our people need us. The galaxy needs us." They parted ways, hearts heavy but heads held high. They would always carry the memory of their time together, the bond forged through adversity and sacrifice, and though they might be apart, they knew they would never be alone, for they had changed the galaxy, and in doing so they had changed each other forever. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.